there, I'm Felicity Barr with the headlines on Al Jazeera. Libya's Deputy Foreign Minister has held talks with the Greek Prime Minister in Athens about seeking a solution to the conflict in his country. But back in Libya itself, government troops have shelled the city of Zintan in the west and the mountain town of Yafran in the east. As James Bays reports, the front line remains stalled at the oil-rich town of Brega.
It's exactly the same pattern as in recent days. The opposition forces move forward a few kilometres, then they're mortared, and this chaotic retreat.
The bodies of around 70 Eritrean refugees have reportedly been found off the coast of Libya after the group tried to flee for Italy or Malta in a dinghy. The Italian authorities have also rescued 98 other migrants from a sinking boat near the island of Lampedusa. Most of the 3,000 refugees being held on the island are now being transferred to the mainland. A spokesman for Côte d'Ivoire's incumbent President Laurent Gbagbo says he will not accept any offers to go into exile. Gbagbo is refusing to step down, even as forces of his rival Alassane Ouattara close in on the presidential compound.
We're driving into the ruins of Dwekwe. It's still very tense here. Signs of battle and looting, and the dead, body bags waiting for collection. But how many died here and why? UN troops guard local volunteers as they search for more bodies. 50 today. At least 4 children. They're loading 4 more bodies here. They just pulled them out of the bushes around where we are. They're finding more bodies all the time here, and these Red Cross teams have already buried hundreds. Aid agencies have claimed up to 1,000 people died when the town was overrun by forces loyal to the elected president Alassane Ouattara. A UN soldier confronts those forces. You mustn't kill them, he says. If you take a prisoner, give him to the authorities. No more killing. But it wasn't us, he tells me. It's the militia groups fighting each other. It's not you who's killed them. No. This is a murky conflict. Civilians targeted on all sides. But the forces now in control of the town insist the death toll has been exaggerated and they have nothing to hide.
It is not 1,000 or 800, it is 162 people which we found. I think that we call people to come here and make investigation, and after we can read together the conclusion.
So you deny that your forces were involved in any sort of massacre?
Our forces cannot be implied.
But the crowds we found sheltering in a church compound here tell a different story. 40,000 scared civilians. Are you afraid to go home?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I see somebody who kick the heart. So if I see the military, so I'm afraid.
And so they wait, like this whole country, wondering when the chaos and killings will end. Andrew Harding, BBC News.
Hello everyone, welcome to Global Government News. Today is Sunday, April 3rd, 2011, and I'm Darko. This is part 4, the final part for today. My website is www.ggnonline.com. That's ggnonline.com. And this first article we have up is kind of a follow-up. Ivory Coast, UN presses Ouattara over Dioukou massacre. So this guy could possibly, or at least his followers, could be responsible for these deaths. And yet they're going to have this same person investigate into himself. Right? The UN Secretary General has urged Ivory Coast's internationally backed president. They always have to say that, just to let you know the global government backs Ouattara to investigate hundreds of deaths, blamed partly on his supporters. So, and it would be nice if the global government would just get the hell out of there, but they're not. And so all these people are going to be caught in the crossfire between, well, a dictatorship and then basically a more updated global government, I guess you call it a corporatist state, or more corporatist, right? More a democratic state, right? That's the new term for it. Ex-Argentine torture officials face jail, and BP is said to face U.S. review for manslaughter charges. That's right, BP was responsible for that. They could have stopped that explosion, but they didn't, and they were warned. Illinois boy falls from indoor roller coaster and dies, and I thought about it afterwards, just recently, how before the story came out, that man, if I had children, I would not send them to amusement parks, and especially carnivals. Excuse me. I remember when I was young, man, those carnivals were just like, oh God. I don't know how I actually went on those rides, man. Just creaking, and they were old and outdated, and even if they're not outdated, I mean, the people that are running them aren't exactly the creme de la creme, you know. Texas cops ticket thousands of school children to raise revenue, some as young as 6 years old, and that's in school too. They're just given a ticket in school for misbehaving, right? Oakland gardener questions need for permit to sell produce. So in a bad economy, people are trying to do anything they can to earn money, and of course you got to go to the state to be authorized to conduct commerce, which is a bunch of bullshit. Reporting suspicious activity. Of course they'll say what? Oh, because it has to go through the government agencies. You know, you could be. What if someone gets sick? You know, it's like, well, I don't want to get people sick. If I get people sick, then you know, my reputation will be bad, and I won't be able to sell money, and I won't be able to make money to eat, right? So people don't have an incentive to put out bad products that are going to harm people unless they're a big corporation and protected by the government. Now, obviously, this person is not a big corporation protected by the government, so she's going to have an incentive to not get people sick. But that's what the FDA is for, to shield and protect big corporations like pharmaceutical companies that kill millions of people and experiment on them like lab rats. Reporting suspicious activity, there's a Homeland Security app for that, and that's right, you can go in there, and this is all the apps for it, and go in there and spy on anyone you want, and it goes to Homeland Security. Napolitano, border is not out of control, she says. And then we have Arizona Sheriff, U.S. Border Patrol officials told to reduce arrests. U.S. border officials were ordered to reduce and at times even stop arrests of illegal immigrants caught trying to cross the U.S. border, an Arizona Sheriff claimed in a report published Friday by FoxNews.com. U.S. Embassy cables, 90% of Mexican drug cartels' most lethal weapons come from Central America, not U.S., and that's one of the biggest arguments as far as clamping down on security on the border and having checkpoints inside the U.S. and having actual Mexican troops pulling over American citizens in American territory and conducting searches of their cars. Chinese authorities detain outspoken artists, and then we have bomb kills Northern Ireland policeman, and then the Nazi secret weapon, they were high on methamphetamine. This is no secret, I already knew this, but either way, if you didn't, it's an interesting little tidbit. Viva la France! The empire is expanding once again under the French dictator Sarkozy. French troops take over Ivorian airport, then UN evacuates 200 Ivory Coast staff. And we have U.S. demands Gbagbo step down immediately. So now that must mean that we're going to go in there and start bombing civilians, right? Obama, no amount of American lives can resolve someone else's war, and that's what he said in his presidential campaign. Test military intervention in Libya along with the U.S. They were also protesting it because they don't want it, but they just go ahead and do it. It says Argentina denounces bombings in Libya. Oh, and check this out. Libya rebels say they seek a nice corporatist democracy or a scientific dictatorship, just like the Ivory Coast civilians, right? The citizens. So, yeah, you're going to get it. Don't worry. And it's not a democracy. It is not. You will have no say in anything. You'll actually have less of a say than you had before. And it's all an illusion. Gaddafi rejects rebel truce offer. So, you know, most of these, half of these rebels are Al-Qaeda, right? So there you got Al-Qaeda, who used to be, you know, the enemy, and they still are. I guess it depends on what country you're in, but now they're our friends, and they're on the side of democracy and the rebels, and they're being headed up by this individual right here. Libya former Guantanamo detainee is training the rebels. So a former Guantanamo detainee is training the rebels. So what does Gaddafi do? He's not going to side with Al-Qaeda because he knows they're the U.S. The rebels are the Western-backed. I mean, it sucks. To Gaddafi, what he's fighting is a U.S. and West. He's not fighting his own civilians. He's fighting the West. and that's how he sees it. So yeah, he's going to reject the rebels' truce offer. God. Libya defector Musa Casa was an MI6 double agent, so he just turned himself in, and that's what I was saying. Basically this guy was with Gaddafi the whole time, and he was actually working against him, so that right at a critical point he could just ditch him and leave him. Right? Gaddafi's regime seeks talks with UK. US as rivals fight for oil cities, so he wants to talk with the people who's really fighting, the US and UK. He doesn't give a shit about the rebels. That's Al-Qaeda, right? Al-Qaeda fight coalition. Friendly fire kills 13 Libyan rebels, and that's just collateral damage. As long as I can get in there globalist-backed puppet in there, whoever that may be. Libya NATO pilots tricked into killing rebels, so they were tricked into doing it. U.S. and Egyptian special forces may be covertly training Libyan rebels. Expose the U.S.-Saudi-Libya deal. You invade Bahrain, we take out Muammar Gaddafi in Libya. This, in short, is the essence of a deal struck between Barack Obama or Bolsonaro administration and the House of Saud, says two diplomatic sources at the United Nations. Independent confirmed at Washington via Secretary of State Hillary Clinton gave the go-ahead for Saudi Arabia to invade Bahrain and crush the pro-democracy movement and their neighbor in exchange for a yes vote by the Arab League for a no-fly zone over Libya, the main rationale that led to the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1973. Only 15 nations contributing to the military action in Libya for one reason, because they went ahead with it so damn fast without anybody say so. The global government, the United Nations, just went ahead and did it for the first time ever, and so they went so fast that that's why there's only a couple countries, and then also there's a lot of countries that are against it. So it says here comes the boots on the ground. EU approves possible military operation for Libya. Then IOM needs 160 million to support 410,000 Libyan refugees. Refugees conditions critical in Italy. And then we have this from Sky News: 500,000 people signed for release of raped Libyan woman. And then we have U.S. pastor vows new anti-Islam protests, and this man should just really, I don't know what to say, shut his mouth. That's the only thing I can say, because all you're doing is getting people killed, man. That's all you're doing. You're fueling the fire for soldiers that they're Americans like you, and they're getting killed even more. There's people in the UN because of you and what you're doing and what you're inciting. So please stop it, dude. You're ignorant and you're being stupid and bigot. Says UN staff. Oh, and I just want to say, this guy might be a Freemason, so I just want to throw that out there. UN staff were hunted down and slaughtered in Afghanistan. So the Persian Gulf Cooperation Council foreign ministers meet in Riyadh amid growing tensions between Iran and the Arab states over Tehran's refusal to support Western-backed autocratic regimes' crackdown on peaceful protesters. Then we have Syria brings down phones and internet. Bahrain bans newspaper. BBC twists Bahraini opposition demand. Says here the BBC has twisted comments by Bahraini Shiite leader Sheikh Ali Salman, claiming he said Iran is meddling in the Persian Gulf country's internal affairs. Then an activist, Yemeni police attack woman with sticks. And then we have over 250 protesters injured in Yemen. And then we have Omani police fire tear gas on protesters. U.S.-led soldiers slaughter Afghan couple. 100 mourn for 3 Palestinians. NATO tanker torched in Pakistan. Why? How the U.S. Army protects its trucks by paying the Taliban. The NATO doesn't make their payments on time, so they get attacked. Israeli tells citizens to leave Sinai immediately. A high occurrence of cancer has been detected in Israel's elite naval commando unit, apparently due to waste disposal by Israeli firms in the Kishon River. I don't believe that. Who knows? Maybe they have some kind of crazy technology that they're using, like Black Ops type technology or whatever. It's exposing them to radiation or something. Israel breaks demolition record. The UN has warned that the demolition of the Palestinian residences by Israelis has been breaking the record for the past 3 months. Israel proposes artificial island near Gaza. The island would have hotels, tourist areas, and a marina with yachts, and an airport and seaport, Israeli government spokesman said, according to the Guardian newspaper. And Israel doesn't ask politely, Israel urges. In other words, they're telling the UN to rescind the Gaza report. Well, that's all I have for you today, guys. Thank you very much for joining me. This is GGN, and I'm Darko. Thank you.